Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants. Welcome back to the podcast, brothers. This is Rhit Moore, past master and current secretary of Fort Worth 148.
This is Billy Hamilton, current junior warden of Fort Worth 148.
This is Gabriel Jagush, senior deacon of Fort Worth 148, and we have a special guest today.
I'm John Tolbert. I'm currently senior deacon of San Marcos 342 in San Marcos, Texas.
Sweet. Climbing the ranks then.
Filling the spot.
Yeah, awesome. We're glad to have you. I really can't believe it's been this long since we have had you on. I always enjoy your presentations, I should say.
Well, I enjoy talking to Masons about Freemasonry. It's a joy to do so, and so this is fun for me.
Awesome. Yeah, there's no doubt you can tell your passion. But before we get started, like I told the guys before the show, this is y'all's last time to be introduced as junior warden and senior deacon. And everybody knows Billy bumped up to senior warden. I mean, that's a gimme. But in our lodge, the last 2 years, we've had multiple brothers, very well qualified, both great Masons, run for junior warden. And Gabe was elected. So congratulations, Gabe.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you,
congratulations.
Yay.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where this goes. But we have something more important to talk about in terms of elections. This time, Rhit nominated somebody else to be secretary and then refused a nomination. How about that? Could it be that Rhit is bailing on us?
Ed told me I had to put that in the minutes that I refused his. I was like, no, I'm going to put respectfully declined.
Right? So this means that the next podcast, Rhit's intro is going to be shorter.
Yes, y'all's will get longer. Mine will get shorter.
Until it gets long again, don't worry about it. So,
All right.
I want to start off with something that Robert Marshall shared to Facebook earlier. Brother Robert Marshall is a past master of Waco Lodge, and he posted something that was submitted to an old newspaper, and it's a kind of a lengthy riddle. It's called Charade, and the riddle goes as such. I am embraced in a word of 8 letters. My component parts are more potent than the whole and governs and controls the universe. I am found in chaos and will be seen in the last day of judgment. The learned of all ages are indebted to me, and no Masonic lodge can work without me. I may be seen in the sea and on dry land. I am conspicuous in heaven, and hell cannot exist without me. I am visible in air and all metals. The arts and sciences cannot dispense with me. I am seen in the fixed stars and planets. All nature acknowledge my presence. I am in the shop and counting house, parlor and kitchen, cabinet and field. My combinations and shapes Medusa like one unlimited. At the birth of Christ I attained my greatest glory, and at the death of Mahomet, my deepest wound. I am Alpha and Omega. I am equally visible in light and darkness, heat and cold. I serve to stimulate philosophers and statesmen, kings and poets. In short, none can rise to eminence without me. Yet I have caused many to sink in infamy. I am as old as the Bible, yet as new as thought, and not yet matured. I sprang from God and was cradled on earth, nourished in the cloister, and thrice blessed under liberty. Speak if you can my name, the world will your own claim. And it's signed W.
W.
So, W.
W. Yeah, that's D-U-B.
D-U-B-Y-A. The correct Texas spelling. So but actually it is the letter W. But yeah, so listeners, if you want to ponder on that riddle, send us emails, info148 at Fort Worth Lodge 148.org, or send it to me, texanmason at gmail.com. I'm curious to see what your guesses are. So, pardon my diversion.
No, that was fun.
Yeah. So I've been puzzling on it myself, and I guess when we go off air, we can kind of bounce ideas around, so we don't spoil guesses for the listeners. Rhit, you had some discussion questions.
Well, really, it's just one, but it's a little bit long-winded. It's about Grand Lodge law, which Jim Rumsey visited our lodge. What was that, Monday? And he gave a great presentation. Since Billy wasn't there to do the law, he asked Jim if he would like to say anything. And, of course, Jim just jumped right on it.
Man, getting right worshipables to pick up your slack. How dare you?
But he discussed when the senior warden should not be satisfied. So I'm almost 100% sure you're up to snuff on this, Billy. But if you would, give it a shot.
Okay, so if you remember, actually, as junior warden, the first Grand Lodge law reading I did was on this very subject, because it was right after I had attended one of Right Worshipful Rumsey's forums. So, okay, let me give it a shot then. So, a senior warden cannot be satisfied if he has not personally sat in a Master Mason's lodge with every single brother present, or has not been appointed to serve on the investigation committee, well, the examination committee, I guess, by the worshipful master.
So what if he sat in lodge with him in an EA lodge in your opening EA lodge?
It doesn't count. It has to be a Master Mason's lodge.
I don't know if that part is true. Let me see. So it says, one Mason cannot vouch for another unless he has sat in open lodge with him and can so state. That's where Rumsey said you've got to be able to state the date, or not necessarily the date, but you have to be able to remember which lodge you were open in.
Okay.
Do you remember that, Gabe? Because it seemed to imply that he didn't say specifically that he has to have sat in lodge with him in a Master Mason's lodge.
It basically, his explanation was that you have to have sat with them in the appropriate lodge. So you don't have to have sat with them in a Master Mason's lodge, but you do have to have sat with them in the lodge that you are opening.
Okay, and maybe I misunderstood, because I actually sat in another one of his forums about a week ago, and he had brought this up again, and I thought he had said Master Masons, but I could be mistaken. But he did say that if the senior warden, if he hadn't sat in there, he could only be satisfied if he was appointed by the worshipful master to examine the visiting brother. You know, if he had asked him, hey, can I see your dues card, and asked him a couple of questions over dinner, it doesn't count.
Yes, that's a great point, because it says, or was a member, this is if you can vouch for a Mason to come and lodge, or was a member of a committee appointed to examine such brother in a lodge. So, you know, that if you just happen to meet a guy on the street and he shows you your dues card and you're like, oh yeah, this guy is a Mason, you can't vouch for him, nor you know, that same thing, because it happens all the time at dinner. That's the best example. You know, the senior deacon will go around and check dues cards.
Yeah.
You know, but he has to be appointed by the worshipful master. And the way Rumsey explains that is that all traditionally takes place after dinner. I guess maybe there's some sway if he appoints you, you know, right when he comes in before dinner.
Right. Yeah. So this was brought up. You know, Brother Jim does a fantastic job of covering these questions and the little nuances with them at his forums. If you haven't gone, I strongly suggest it. But as a result of this, if you're visiting us at Fort Worth 148 over the next year, expect the senior warden not to be satisfied a whole bunch of times.
And Grant was it, and he did a pretty good job. Well, I say pretty good. He nailed it. You know, he got the words exactly right.
Hmm.
So we've already done it once. So no surprises. But for that matter, of course, we being in Jim's area, that's who we see mostly. But any forum, because the Committee on Work has different areas.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna learn so much, and you don't have to take the exam. You can just go watch the forum where they teach you the footwork and the proper protocol and all that, and then eat lunch and scram.
Yeah.
Or you can observe the exam as well.
Right. Yeah. Watching the EA was fantastic because there were a lot of little details about the EA degree, going through the conferral of it that I wasn't aware of or that I had overlooked. That it was really great. As a matter of fact, that's why I sent that email to you guys after I attended that forum. I was like, oh crap, here's a whole bunch of stuff we need to work on.
Oh yes, there's a few that really caught my attention. I can't wait to dig into those. But it dealt with ritual, so I won't dive in.
Right.
All right, I'm ready to move on unless you guys... Oh, that is Article, 381? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Article 381, if you want to look it up and check it out. I cannot recommend enough to get you the PDF so you can word search and find this stuff uber quick.
Right.
So when someone says that's not true, you pull it right up on your phone, search it out, bam. Here, you can read it.
It's a very valuable resource.
So, and the Grandmaster's decisions are also valuable. Like the example that I had written up just in case we didn't have anything for this last stated meeting. There's a point in there that you would do it incorrectly if you didn't have the Grandmaster's decisions on there to help kind of lead you in the right direction.
Ooh. We'll have to make that our next discussion question, next podcast. That sounds interesting. I love the nuances.
So our main episode content, Fraternal Spotlight with Brother John Tolbert. John, could you tell us a little bit about yourself outside of the Masonic lens?
Well, sure. I've had a company for over 30 years in Austin with a business partner. We build elevator interiors. So my entire life has been around building things. When I was a kid, I just, I was always, taking toys apart and all that. So my life has all been about building things and being creative. And so that's what I do for a living. I'm currently trying to sell that business. I'm getting into real estate. I'm actually remodeling or rehabbing a house right now. And I enjoy taking things that are kind of beat up and turning them into something, that's, that's been rebuilt. And quite frankly, that's what San Marcos Lodge, it's one of those projects in life that it's very gratifying to take something that needs to be, helped and rebuilt. And it's happened, man. Let me tell you, it's San Marcos Lodge it's on fire right now. It's an incredible Masonic experience.
So when you talk about rebuilding, can you give us a time frame on that?
You're talking about the lodge itself, or what specifically? What?
Yeah, the lodge itself, exactly.
Okay, let's go ahead and kind of start at the beginning. When I came to San Marcos, and I think this was 2006, in my mind, I thought I was going to go to a building that was like a 2-story brick building with a square and compass on it, and something very old and with a lot of patina, that sort of thing. And so when I went to San Marcos, it was out on Highway 123, and I've lived here for a long time, and I'd never seen a lodge out there. So when I drove out there, it was a metal building, and when I drove in, the yard wasn't mowed, the building was really beat up, and man, my heart sunk. It was like, oh my God, because my dad, my dad was Mason. He didn't talk about it much, but I had this in my mind that this was a place where really respectable men, the peers of the the community would be. And then when I went to that metal building, it was like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? Went to the back of the building, went in, opened the metal doors. And I've told this story a million times. I'll tell it again. Opened the doors, and it smelled like a wet dog inside. It was white sheetrock walls. It was fluorescent lighting. Everybody was nice. There was a bunch of people there, but my God, my heart sank. I was instantly depressed, and there was a part of me saying, "Get out of here now! Don't get involved in this. Don't get away from this." However, okay, I went ahead and went through my degrees, and everybody they were well-meaning men. They were doing the best they could. I went through the degrees, but when I asked questions about the work, nobody could tell me anything about it. They just didn't know. They knew the word, but they didn't know what it meant. And so this became one of those things where, okay, this needs to be resurrected, rebuilt. I mean, it's alchemy. It's this, this thing has been, decomposed down to its base level, and it needs to be, built back up. And so that's what's happened at San Marcos. It's taken, we can go into all the details. I don't know if you want to do that or not, but it took years to do so. Mm-hmm. And now San Marcos, my God, it's, nothing's going to last forever. Everything is temporary. But last night we had a Master Mason's degree that was off the charts. It was unreal. We had music from Brother Randy Bass, playing a synthesizer, kind of like a music score. As the candidate moved around the lodge, it was unreal. And when Brother Al Matthews was giving the lecture, I was a senior deacon sitting next to the candidate, and we have this, kind of interesting lighting in the lodge. I'm not kidding you. I had kind of an altered state of consciousness as I was watching Al, because he was not just giving the words, he was speaking it like he was talking to you, and the words were just for the first time coming out of his mind. It was unreal. So here's the point. San Marcos was almost a dead lodge when I got there in 2006. It's now 2019. That's 13 years. The candidates that we have that are coming through, and we don't have a lot. We've got 3 or 4, guys that are kind of moving through the deal. It's the Masonic experience that I wanted, that I didn't get, and it's happened. It's real, and these are the good old days in Freemasonry in Texas. They're just happening in very small, localized places. It's not going to be widespread. It's never going to be widespread.
Yeah.
But it's happening here. It's happening in other lodges. I mean, come on, look at Fort Worth 148 and Hillcrest and Doric and St. Albans. On and on. There's these little spots where this stuff is happening. Step on the gas, man, because this is the time to make it happen. There are good things happening in Freemasonry.
There's no doubt about it. And it doesn't take a handful of guys, just one guy to really stick it out and make it happen.
Yeah, it shows that in the human experience, when a person gets focused on something and they start having these thought processes, I want this to happen. I want this to exist. I want it to come into being. It will come into being. It's the law of attraction. I mean, that's kind of a colloquial term, but it's real. It's real. If a person wants this stuff to happen in their life, if you start thinking about it and obsessing over it and working at it, it'll happen. Of course, you're going to have things that will get in your way, but that's part of the process. That's the checker pavement. There's these negative energies. I mean, that's part of the process. It's not all white pavers. The black pavers are part of the deal.
No, I think I've heard it somewhere that with time, patience, and perseverance, you can make it happen.
And that's because it's true. It does take perseverance. It's not supposed to. I tell my daughter this. She's called me when she's had troubles, and I tell her, Hannah, it's not supposed to be easy. This is supposed to be challenging, and quite frankly, that's what Freemasonry is. It's this school for men who have been drawn into this, very unique Enlightenment society to learn the rules of reality, which are, it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to have these challenges. And so all of us have these lodges that have problems, people problems. And that's part of the deal. Infrastructure problems. It's the struggle in existence. And that's what we're here to learn, is how to get along with your fellow human being, how to get along with this rough, tough world we live in. It's never going to be perfect. You never get to the perfect ashlar. It's not going to happen. But you're here to grind away at it and persevere, as you're saying. It's true.
Yeah. Okay, so John, you'd mentioned your dad was a Mason. Is that what ultimately inspired you to join?
It was, but it was very indirectly. My dad became a Mason in 1946 in Fort Worth at Panther City Lodge, actually, in your building there. Yeah. And he then was going to TCU, became a geologist, went to Houston, and was a member of Walter M. Pearson Lodge just for a few years. And then he completely retracted from it. I think the politics there was weird, and he was very dedicated to his career, and so he was never an officer, but he paid his dues until he was dead. Here's the point: my dad was deeply affected by Freemasonry because he came from a very, very, austere, poor background, and then went to World War II. Was in a B-17. Just completely turned his life upside down. But Freemasonry, I suspect, was this thing that kind of grounded him, that there is something to reality that is worthwhile, because his life had been just completely, it was awful. And so he lived his life as a Mason, which was moral, ethical. He's a man. He had faults like everybody else, but he really, really was. I looked up to him because he was this person that just lived his life as a very good human being. He never said anything to me about it. I remember as a little kid when I was like snooping around in their closet, saw this leather apron, but he never talked about it at all. As when he got older and I was older, didn't become a Mason until I was 50 years old. He gave me this little cassette. From friend to friend or something like that. The lodge, the Grand Lodge was giving out, and he gave it to me. And I remember it sat on my desk. It sat on my desk in Austin at my company for months, and I never listened to. I actually never listened to it. And eventually, I asked. I went to a friend's house, and there's this young guy who said, "Hey, I'm going to become a Mason," and I was like, "Freemasonry still exists?" And that inspired me to ask my dad, is Freemasonry a good thing? And I remember him saying, he's dead now, of course, son, it's one of the best organizations you can ever become involved with. And for me, that was like, that's it. That's all I needed was my dad's, blessing. Well, then I asked him, like, well, how do you become a Mason? He said, you'll figure it out. He didn't tell me because he didn't know. I mean, he'd been away from so long, he didn't know what to do. So I wrote a letter to the Grand Lodge, looked it up online, and then they sent me a letter back, contact, secretary at San Marcos Lodge. I thought I had been assigned to a lodge. It's like, okay, this is it. I'll go to that lodge because I've been assigned to it. And it was San Marcos, and San Marcos was like this, just this dying, beast. It was really, really depressing. But it's okay because it all worked out great. San Marcos needed this revival, and it's happened. So my dad did his job. He lived a good life. He created this example for me, which I'll never forget. And it drives me every day as to he's the person that I look up to as to guidance of how to be a good human being. So I went to San Marcos and started that trail there, and it was this thing that needed resurrection, and it has been resurrected. And I'm telling you, Texas, there's good things going on for Freemasonry in Texas. It's not bad. Although when I got there, man, in 2006, it was bad. As we all know, it was about to go belly up. But because of guys of your age, man, it's happening, and people are coming to the light. They're literally coming to the light. It's not big numbers. It's never been big numbers. It's not supposed to be big numbers. It's people like us that want, this light that exists. It's not for everybody. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Rhit, you know a little something about the mid-2000s being bad, don't you?
It was a weird time in Freemasonry. John, you mentioned you're currently senior deacon. Have you held any other offices in the Blue Lodge?
Yeah, I was master of San Marcos in 2012, 2013. And it was a very, very interesting experience. As all of us know, when you become master for the first time, you're kind of the helm of the ship. And it was a good year, although there was some kind of weird vibes going around because I'd made a lot of changes in the lodge. In fact, let's go ahead and back up a little bit. Once I became a member at San Marcos, because it was such a spiritually dead environment, I wanted to create something that was, more interesting. And so we started in the ante room. And that's the place for any lodge that wants to make a change in the lodge. Start in the ante room because it's a no man's land. It's usually full of junk, chairs and magazines and all that. Well, if you go ahead and clean it up and put some, curtains up and change the lighting and do something that's meaningful to the candidate, it kind of, everybody's okay with that. And then we start changing the lighting in the lodge, and it took years and years and years to have what we have now. But it transformed this lodge, which was just spiritually dead, to now it's spiritually charged really heavily. I mean, it's off the charts. It's really cool. But it took a long time. It took a lot of effort. And I know there's many lodges out there that are trying to do the same thing. And you just simply have to kind of keep going. It's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. And there are people who will resist. That's part of the energy of the world. It's the checkered pavement. You try to do stuff and there's pushback. That's just how it works. So
Completely agree. So when it comes to Freemasonry as a whole in Texas, what do you see as our overall weaknesses and strengths?
Well, I don't know if I'm really the person to speak. I'll go ahead and give you my opinion. Our strengths are the guys your age. Okay, I mean, look how many guys that are your age that are now in the grand line. And Brother Rumsey, he's one of them, man. He's one of us. He's really trying to help this thing kind of get back on track, which he's doing a great job. And so that, our strength is this youth and open-mindedness that is now becoming prevalent. The weakness is, the weakness of just the human condition. There's no need to point fingers at anybody. It's never going to end. It will always be a push and pull, grind for something. But it's a personal voyage. And collectively, it's a voyage for all of us. Can we take this very special organization of men who are trying to, become enlightened or seek light or become better human beings, love our fellow human beings, however you want to describe it. This is a very, very unique situation on Earth. It doesn't exist in very many places. And the world pushes back. The world resists this. I don't know why. I don't know what the reason for it is, because it seems like we're doing a good thing. But our weakness is that energy that pushes back on this stuff. So, it's never going to end. We just got to keep going forward. That's our job.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because you mentioned it a few times. It's the checkered pavement. It's the yin and yang of Freemasonry. Because without the pull, there is no push. There is no overcoming if there's no resistance. So it's one of those things that's just necessary and will be forever. So even when you've got a goal in mind, it's like you said, you're not going to get to the perfect ashlar. You just keep chipping away, though. just keep chipping.
Yeah, and the Kabbalah exemplifies that. Well, hell, I mean, look, when you our columns, our Jacques and Boaz. I mean, when you go through the middle of them, that's your path. It's through this middle, way of trying to understand that the polarized aspects of existence, male, female, passive, active, light, dark, all those things, they're not the enemies of each other. They're just the opposites of the same thing. It's unity of everything. I mean, that's kind of a colloquial statement, but it's true.
Yes.
Our job is to learn how to accept these things that seem to be our enemies. Look, here's an example. Male female relationships. It's the thing we deal with every day. It's not that male or female energy is right or wrong. They're very different. They're polar opposites of the same thing. And when those polar opposites can acknowledge that each other, they're not the enemy, then you come to this agreement that it's one, it's okay, and it's not a fight, it's not a struggle.
I like it. So, Freemasonry, what's your favorite aspect of it and why?
Okay, wow, that's really tough. Well, all right, I'll just be very honest with you. I grew up Methodist, and as a child, I really tried to pay attention in church, and I just never really, I just never put the pieces together. And what Freemasonry did for me was made me incredibly open-minded in a spiritual sense. I don't look at other people's spiritual traditions as right or wrong. It's just their path up the mountain. And I demand that, that others give me my path up the mountain. Freemasonry, it's one of those few places on earth where especially men can come together and let the other brother go up the mountain in his own manner, in his own path, without telling him, you're on the wrong path. You need to get on my path. And so, if anything, Freemasonry really gave me comfort and spiritual satisfaction that human beings have the right and privilege and obligation to pursue God, the deity, the great architect of the universe, and whatever they want to call it. It's their business. Let them go up the path up that mountain, and and they should give you the same honor, dignity, etc. So for me, it's really brought me real peace and satisfaction of knowing that it does exist on earth where human beings can pursue these things without wanting to kill each other.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I like the bar. I like the bar that we're setting there. We can share this without killing each other.
Well, Lord
Bar
knows we have our fun. Yeah, I mean, brothers are going to be brothers.
The sad thing is I joke about setting the bar there, but so many places around the world that is the bar. Can we talk about this without killing each other?
Yeah.
So hey, it's to have a society that agrees from the outset. Hey, you have to be civilized. Like, man, it's something I don't think about often enough, and that I'm not grateful for often enough.
It's the truth, because it's getting more and more rare nowadays to have that forum to speak your truth and not be put in a box.
Mm-hmm.
The last bastion of civility.
Yeah. So, John, you kind of mentioned and described San Marcos when you walked in with the wet mop or wet dog smell and the fluorescent lights. Can you? I don't know how much you want to give away, but can you kind of describe what it's evolved into now?
Sure. We generally discourage candidates from seeing the lodge room before they are initiated, we don't, if they say, no, I want to see the lodge, like, okay, fine, go in. But virtually all of them, they're saying, yes, I don't want to see it. And let me tell you, it's very, very special when they see it. When a candidate is brought to light, it's a incredible burst of color. It's surreal. Our lodge is a surreal environment, and if I could describe it, it's kind of like a Victorian salon, like those pictures you see in the old monitors and stuff, with curtains and satin rope and just lamps and things that are handmade and kind of gaudy, as a matter to be quite frank. So we have a checkered pavement that is an exact copy of the Bromwell entered apprentice carpet, which is in the Grand Lodge building, in the lobby. It's in our monitor. It's got the blazing star and the 360-degree marks on it. It's the HPH Bromwell carpet. So, and we had it made in England. And so that's in the middle of the room. It's surrounded by dark blue carpet. We've got these old chairs that came from the 1904 Grand Lodge building that have been refinished. So you've got these old uncomfortable chairs to sit in. The master's chair is kind of a lion throne chair. There's a light behind the master that shines on a blue velvet curtain that came from this Austin Scottish Rite Valley. That's kind of flickering behind him. It's quite frankly, it's like a Christmas light, one of those rotating things, but it's a great effect. There's a stained glass G behind the master. There's two sconce lights on either side. There's the gold curtains on either side with paintings by Al Matthews. It's just this burst of color and intense bizarreness. We really don't like the public coming into the lodge because it's weird. Well, it is.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be that way. The lodge is not supposed to be reality. It is a surreal environment. It's an initiatory chamber where a brother is brought in and transformed from the material world into this, ever-growing spiritual realm. And everything's symbolic. We have a beehive, we have large compasses, we have all these symbols. We have stained glass from the Guthrie, Scottish Rite in the north. It's just full of symbols all around the lodge, and it's effective because it's not just a room. It's kind of a dreamscape. And with the music that Brother Bass is playing, oh my God, it wasn't just the visual; it was the sound. And we use incense. We use which is one of our symbols in our monitor. We use frankincense in a incense heater. It doesn't smoke, and then we use also a essential oil diffusers. Those are great because they don't make smoke or anything. So the candidate gets this smell of this really, they'll never forget it. They will never forget that smell the rest of their life when they're initiated. So it is an initiatory chamber, which let me tell you, it has had an effect on every candidate that's brought in there. And I urge every lodge in Texas, I don't care how modest it is, create some kind of an environment so that the candidate knows that this is very special. It's very different. This is not reality. This is something different. And it is. It's, as we all know, this is not your everyday stuff. We're trying to do something that's beyond the humdrum everyday life.
Mm-hmm. No, and those things start adding up. You put a curtain in here, some symbols up here, a light there. Next thing you know, 6 years down the road, you've created this, like I said, a dreamscape for your lodge. It's not going to be done overnight for sure, but that's a great example of how a lodge should be set out. Because if it is just the same fluorescent lights that you remember from the class, it's not as memorable.
And I wanted to ask a question about the incense because I'm a big fan of incense being used in lodge settings. But one of the common objections that I hear to incense in any kind of lodge meeting or ceremony or anything is that, hey, what about people with asthma or allergies or whatever? In your experience, have you really encountered any of that? Or if somebody has raised concerns, have there been ways to mitigate that?
No, we when we first started doing it, some of the kind of negative energy stuff, they didn't like it. But you just have to do all of these things. You have to take your time. You can't shove it down people's throats. The essential oils diffusers is probably the best way to do it because you're not burning anything. There's no smoke. And if they don't like that smell, well, sorry, it's frankincense, man. I'm sorry. And we haven't had any 911 calls for asthma for frankincense, in the lodge. So if somebody just wants to complain, there's not much you can do about that. And quite frankly, this is the challenge of when you try to take a lodge from being a soulless environment to something very special, spiritual, etc. You have to be prepared for this energy to push back. And quite frankly, that's our job as a Freemason, to learn how to deal with a fellow human being who's pushing back and do it with kindness and compassion and not get in a fight, not want to kill them, as we said earlier. That's what it's a training ground of trying to learn how to get along with your fellow human being.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it's like I said, it's two sides of the same coin, the push and pull. Billy, you've been quiet. You want to hashtag go ahead?
Well, no, actually, I love this because we've actually talked about bringing in some of those elements into our lodge, and we even tried using the diffuser for a bit, and we did have some concerns there. So I'm still really on board with doing that, right? Because I visited now a couple of different lodges where they start bringing in these elements. Like music and like incense, like your lodge is doing, and it really does add to the ritual. It creates a unique ritual space, I think, which just enhances what we're doing, right, during the degrees or even during just a regular stated meeting. So it's a fantastic idea, and I'm just sitting here taking notes. Because I still have all the incense that I bought originally. It's like I would love to figure out a way to do that.
If you recall, when I was DDGM for Right Worshipful Wiggins. God bless him for trying to do what he did the year. It didn't go well. Trying to kind of go the TO Lodge direction. He openly said that the lodge is a sacred space, and it is a sacred space. It's not a church. That's not the point. It is a place where human beings come together in a very, very special, sacred environment where they're learning how to get along and connect with deity and all the things that we know that we're trying to achieve there. And so incense is not, it's not trying to do something funny or weird. It's part of the whole experience. It's the sound, it's the sight, it's the smell, it's the feeling you have in that space. It's one of our symbols in our monitor because it's always been a useful tool for human beings to achieve a higher state of consciousness. That's the point. It's higher consciousness that we're trying to achieve, and it's not easy. But things like incense facilitate that attempt to achieve that state.
Yeah, a degree should be an assault on the senses, and smelling is one of them. I can think of many things that trigger such pleasant memories. Like the smell of cedar takes me back to my pop's property where we'd go camping, as a kid. It's the same thing here. even with music, there's a very good chance that if that master mason that went through that degree you were talking about hears the same score Brother Bass played, it'll probably take his mind back to his degree, or at least give him that kind of feeling. So yeah, those things are important to incorporate. And like John said, it's a slow roll. You're not going to hit the rough ashlar and make it a perfect ashlar on the first whack. So just stay at it.
One of the most important things for Freemasons everywhere is to realize that the degrees that we confer, they are initiatory processes. It's not just the words, it's not the floor work. I mean, this stuff's all important, everything, but the candidate is the focus of the energy. It's the ancient mysteries. It's been done forever through all mankind. You're trying to flip these micro switches in a human being's subconscious. I mean, that's our job, is to open these avenues and these streams within a human being that takes them out of the material, kind of river of drowning that we're in, men of the torrent that we're trying to get out of it, because and it's not easy. So a properly done initiation is incredibly powerful. I don't want to get off too far into the story, but I've given the story several times. I saw an initiation up in Colorado where a candidate fainted twice.
Oh, wow.
At the same moment in the degree. And here's the point. It's a great story. I don't want to get into it right now. But the point is, and this was an intense initiation. I mean, an old building up in the mountains in Colorado. And at the exact same moment in the initiatory process, the candidate completely passed out because his brain said, shut down. And he did. He completely passed out. So here's the point. Initiations done properly are very, very powerful, and it's not a game. And it's a great tool. We are trying to reach into the inner depths of a human being and release them from this captivity of thinking the material world is all there is. This is it. You're just trying to get digital ones and zeros in a bank account. But there's something beyond this. I mean, listen to the Master's lecture. I mean, it's never, never die. I mean, there's this immortality, and that's what the ancient mysteries were all about, was conveying to the human beings who had never heard it before that you exist beyond this physical reality. I mean, we all take it for granted now because of the way we've grown up, but it's true. The physical reality is not all there is. There's something beyond this, and we can go way down rabbit holes in this. But let me tell you, Freemasonry for me has cemented the acknowledgement there's something beyond this reality, and it is real, and it's not a game. And when you do initiation properly, you can effectively turn those micro switches on.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the point about the focus on the candidate, because I've had, not too long ago, had a similar kind of consciousness raising during a degree when it was just all coming together. I mean, everybody was on their game, and towards the end, I just had one of those moments to where when that focus is put in on the candidate, like you said, it creates an immense amount of energy that has like an overflowing effect, to where when that candidate's getting his socks blown off, the wind, just like it did for you in that master's degree during the lecture, it took your socks off with it, because the power that was created was, essentially overflowing from the cup. So everybody could get a little sip of it that was helping in the degree. So those initiatic moments don't just come for the person being initiated. When that degree's done right, the whole team can feel it. And I say team, even the observers.
I agree completely. It's a place where it's like a mass. When a mass is done correctly, the energy is just you can feel it. It's vibration all over your body. And it's hard to find situations where you have of like mind, where everybody is focused on something. And this mental energy, I can't tell you what it is, but I know it's real. When when you have focused mental energy, it's very powerful. Here's an example. If you do a degree and there's a couple of old dudes, I say old dudes, it's a couple of people in the lodge room who are talking and laughing, or doing, they screw the whole thing up. The energy focus gets all diffused. If that's not happening, and everybody is focused, swords pointed towards the candidate, as we see in the old, engravings. Well, that's what it's all about. It's this focused human, because we're all one. We're not separate. We're all, these little sparks of, God floating around, these little blobs of flesh, but we're all from the same thing. And when we focus our, energy towards something, it's incredibly powerful. And we all know it. We all know this. And it can happen, with your wife, your child, a close friend, a burial, a birth. I mean, when these things happen, you can feel this focused human energy, and it's palpable. You can feel it. And if you can harness it and use it in a constructive manner, it makes life just a joy, because you're using the tool the way it's supposed to be used. At least that's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, because I love it. Because I mean, that's essentially it. We become a power plant of just. It motivates me, is the best way I can put it, to just take life on and kind of roll with the punches. Because just like, I mean, we talked earlier today, you mentioned the degree to me, to where I could tell it affected you greatly. The same thing happened to me, but it is fleeting. It doesn't last forever. So it's one of those things you got to get back in and keep with it.
Yeah, last night after the degree, in fact, Rhit, I'll go ahead and kind of convey what you and I talked about. At the end of the degree, I was sitting with the candidate. I was the senior deacon sitting with the candidate, and Brother Al Matthews. And let me paint a picture of Brother Al Matthews. Oh my God. He has this long, long white beard, and he wears wire rim glasses, and he was wearing a top hat, and his suit looks like he's from the 1800s. And Al has this very, very deep voice, and he's been doing this forever. And when he gave the master's lecture, he was saying it like it was just words coming out of his mouth that he hadn't memorized. It was just like he was telling it to the candidate, and it was so relaxed and so truthful. And he said it like he meant it, because he did mean it. And I was looking at Al, and we have this kind of wavy light behind him on this velvet curtain, and then we have this LED light that shines down on the perfect ashlar to the right of him. And as I was looking at him, just kind of focusing on him, I'm telling you, I had kind of an altered state of consciousness, because that's what was going on at the time. It was real, man. And the candidate was completely taken by it also. The point being here is that when it's done right, a degree is a transforming experience for everybody in the room. And I don't know if it'll ever happen again. And if that's the peak of my Masonic experience, so be it. And I'm glad I was there, and thank you, God, man, because it was so cool.
Yeah, I bet you guys do it again. So, can you tell us just what's a typical month at San Marcos Lodge like?
Well, we meet every Tuesday. We have really good camaraderie around there right now. We have a landscape around the building with all these palm trees, and in the backyard we have this big giant 100-foot diameter circle of loquat trees that someday is going to be a green circle where we can have outdoor meetings or gatherings, completely private. It's in an industrial area. It's really kind of weird, but we have all this evergreen stuff around the building, because our building's very ugly. It's just a green metal building, but all this evergreen junipers and other plants are covering up the building, and the driveway are like these green tunnels. It's this surreal place. So anyway, we have weekends when we get together and we mow and weed eat the place, and it takes hours and hours. It's 2 acres. I mean, it's a big spot. Or lately there'll be people back in our beautiful library with all the Bali wood carvings and Shivas and Manly Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages books back there, and there'll be teaching of the work back there. There'll be people talking in the kitchen dining area, and then we may be practicing in the lodge room. So it's like a beehive. It really, lately we are a really busy little beehive, and we're making honey. It's great. And then we, on third Wednesdays, we'll have our Scottish Rite Club. We have our reading of the Secret Teachings of All Ages. We read a chapter, and I'm kind of plugging it, but I'm very proud of it because we read every single word of that book. It took us 6 years. It was a Scottish Rite Club activity, and all Masons are invited, and it was fantastic. So, San Marcos, we're a tiny little lodge. We usually have 15, 18 guys show up for a meeting. But we're doing the work. We're doing the work of Freemasonry, and I'm very proud of our lodge.
No, I like that because it doesn't take a whole bunch to make it happen. It's not about numbers. We've been indoctrinated with that. It's about the energy you're creating there. So what are some of the things that San Marcos Lodge does that you enjoy most?
Well, that's a tough question because a lot of things we do that brings me a lot of joy. I think that that we actually, men are sitting around and talking about very deep personal subject matter and exchanging ideas rather than talking about frivolous, shallow stuff. It's really kind of become this philosophical, school, which is great. Dr. Northcutt has been there forever, and he always gives our education moment during the meetings, and we do what we're supposed to be doing. It's not just mechanics. We're not just reading the minutes and all that other stuff, which you got to do. That's fine. But we're actually interacting as human beings at a calm, loving your human being level. And I don't get that anywhere else in my life. I mean, I never have. And we're doing it there. It's not gonna last forever, but for now, it's good. Things are going well, and San Marcos is, it's about as good as it can get.
Okay, Billy and Gabe, I don't want to take this over. You guys shoot with some questions.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh man. So there's a paired question here. What book or books would you recommend for the newer Master Mason? And what book or books would you recommend for an older, quote unquote, Mossback Mason?
That's a tough question because there's so many of them out there. However, one of my favorites is Manly P. Hall's The Secret Keys of Freemasonry. He does a really good job of describing the kind of the symbolic nature of the 3 degrees. And of course, The Meaning of Masonry by Wilmshurst, although it focuses on the Royal Arch, which, if you haven't had the Royal Arch, you read it and you just don't know what's going on. Let me back up. I would say the absolute best thing for a young Mason or anybody to read is Lightfoot's commentaries, which have been thrown into the books, the bookstore down in the basement of the Grand Lodge. And, I'm on the education committee, and we have pulled that thing out, and we've sold so many copies of them at the officer leadership training sessions. And it's great because that 60 pages or whatever it is, it's some of the best writings about Freemasonry so distilled down and so concise and so clear. And very few people really are even aware of it. A lot of us are, but there's a ton of people who have no idea what it is. So I would say, the commentaries are step number one.
That is definitely a good one, and you can get those for the monitor. So like they'll sell them in the 3-ring binder pages to where you can add them to the back of monitors. And I recommend when you order monitors for your newly raised Master Masons, you go ahead and order those and throw them in the back. Just make sure they got a copy of that.
Yeah, my snarky comment on this is Lightfoot's commentaries is the correct answer. Not that there is a correct answer, but if there were a correct answer, I would say Lightfoot's commentaries would be it.
That's the truth.
Hey, let me. I just remember something. Bob Davis, Robert Davis, the past General Secretary of Guthrie Scottish Rite. And if anybody's listening to this, if you've never been to Guthrie Scottish Rite, you must go, because it's on another planet and it will change your life. Bob Davis just published a book called "The Journey of the Elu to Enlightenment." I believe that's the title, and the introduction, which is 40 pages, I think may be the best description of what Freemasonry is that I have ever read in my entire life. Chuck Denning and Kevin Maine had influence in the writing, and Bob Davis pulls, because they're all good buddies. It brought tears to my eyes, because he correctly identifies that Freemasonry is the product of the Italian Renaissance, the Reformation, the Industrial Revolution, and the English Enlightenment. We are a product of those 4 processes of the Western world. We are human beings trying to get out of the bonds of tyranny, of religious and political tyranny. And we have. I mean, it's our job. And please, if anybody's listening to this, please go buy that book, the Journey of the Elu to Enlightenment. It is unbelievably articulate in the way Bob Davis describes what Freemasonry is. And God bless Bob Davis. There's very few people on earth that I hold up on a pedestal like that, but Brother Davis he's up on the top.
I just had the pleasure of hearing him speak at the Scottish Rite Festive Board and got an autographed copy of that book. So I'm excited to get started. He was a phenomenal orator. I mean, such a great speaker.
He is, and it's not just that Bob is an erudite, nice guy, but Bob is he is so sincere in what he's saying. He's not. This isn't just, talking to be talking or talking to be published. Bob, he walks the walk, and God bless him. His journey in Freemasonry, it's a fantastic story. My God, he was, the General Secretary at that incredible place for 30 something years. And that building, it's like a living, breathing thing. It was very, very happy that he was there. And I was very lucky to have been around when he and Jim Tresner, the team, were doing their thing. It was, I feel sorry for people who were never able to experience the magic that they created in that building, because it's very difficult to achieve something like that.
All right. So the next question I have is, what is your favorite research subject right now?
It's a very tough question. I read a lot of different things, but I'm going to go ahead, and this is kind of getting wild and wacky, but it will be quantum mechanics and astral projection, because I've had experiences in that. Things about reality, things that are kind of way, way beyond what the normal everyday experiences. For me, that's what I enjoy, studying. As far as, history of Freemason, all this stuff's very, very important. But at the end of the day, you got to quit reading history and books and numbers and facts and figures. And it's, what are you going to do with your existence? How many days do you have left to live? What's going to happen when you die? Those things. I mean, that's the stuff I think about pretty much all day, every day now, because I'm 64 years old. I'm going to be dead pretty soon, and so it's now getting down to critical time of, what are you going to do with the days you have left on Earth? How are you going to deal with your fellow human being? Are you proud of what you've done with your life? All those, that's the stuff that pushes my buttons and makes me, that's the subject matter that I think about every day.
No, I like that. Even for the younger Mason, there has to be a balance of input output, because you can read every Masonic book you want to, but until you actually go experience it and put that input into play, I don't want to say it's worthless, but it's not worth as much if you go out and use it.
Look, you guys, y'all are all young, okay? And we have young guys come to San Marcos, very young guys. And there's a part of me which is going, you're not ready for this, man. You need to go out and, be married, have a business, buy a home, struggle with existence. I didn't become a Mason until I was 50 years old, and I'm glad I didn't, because I was not ready to be a Mason until I was 50 years old. And so there's a point in life where, y'all's age, you're out there, you need to get out and struggle and scuffle and, fight the material world. And hopefully at some point, then you go, okay, I've done that. Now there's something that's more important, which is, why am I here? What am I doing? Whence came you? Why are you even here? What, those really, really intense questions. And if that's a little dangerous, in my opinion, to be thinking about when you're super young, because you have other jobs to do. You've got, the material world. Somebody could disagree with me on this, but that does concern me a little bit with guys your age.
John, what is a subject that you'd like to learn more about, but you don't know very much about yet?
I would actually, it's astral projection. I wish I could find somebody who could be kind of a guide for that. I don't know if you know much about it, but it's real. And literally, when you experience these things, your consciousness is a separate thing from your physical body. So for me, what it shows is that what we think is reality, there's something way, way beyond that. And it's a realm that it's a little scary. I mean, it's pretty unnerving, because you don't know what to do. And in general, I would say I wish I could understand more about those aspects of reality that are beyond just the everyday. I'm really good. Let me back up. I'm really good at the material world. I'm a builder. I built my own home. I have trees that I planted 30 years ago. All that stuff. I've mastered the material world. The spiritual world is something I don't really have a grasp on, and so that particular topic is now, as I get older, becoming more important. And when I pray, or when I meditate, or when I contemplate, it's serious business, because it's going to end, and this is not a game. I don't know what the true meaning of this reality is, but it's probably very different than what I think it is. And so, I know I'm kind of jumping around, but that's the stuff that really occupies my mental space is what's beyond this physical realm, and am I doing the right thing at this? I mean, and I start to lose kind of my my train of thought there, because it's not easy. It's not easy to really to hone in on it.
Yeah, there's astral projection is something that's always intrigued me, because in today's world of materialism, it's so quickly just dismissed as nonsense. But it's one of those things that if you really think about it, somebody just didn't make that up a couple of years ago. That's been going on for millennia. There's just in all different cultures recorded some kind of version of that happening, to where there's something to that, and that's what I love about Freemasonry, is it gives you that forum to be able to explore those kind of things.
Yeah. What you just said is absolutely true. In fact, in some of your more esoteric traditions, there's direct and indirect, references to this out-of-body experience stuff. And yes, nobody invented this recently. People have been experiencing this forever. My first experience was spontaneous. It was not brought on. It was when I was in college. It was terrifying. And most of the time it is for people because you don't know what it is. But once you read about it and find out that other people have had the same thing, and it's all the same, vibration and, floating out of your body and all that stuff. Here's the point. The material world is not all there is. There's other stuff beyond this. And if somebody has never experienced this, they just go, oh, that's a bunch of hogwash. Well, it is to you because you've never experienced it. But if you've experienced it, it's real. And there's other things. I mean, there's other altered states of consciousness, Kundalini experiences or whatever. There's many different, drugs and other things. The reality is what we see with our senses, see, feel, smell with our senses. That's not all there is. There's way more stuff out there. And okay, let me distill it down. If you think you've got God in a box, good luck with that, because I don't think you can put it in a box. I don't think we have the ability to comprehend it. It is ineffable, like the Scottish Rite degrees, the ineffable degrees. It's true that you can't describe it, you can't understand it, and that's okay.
So, what does San Marcos have going on right now? What kind of projects are they working on?
We are just doing regular stuff. There's nothing special. We've had guys show up. I mean, we don't advertise. We don't. It's just the law of attractions going out there, and we've had about 5 really great guys come in who have come in and they finish their work. And so we're the beehive. We're just making honey, man. And it's not big numbers. Like I said, we only have about 18 guys show up to, a stated meeting, maybe 20 if it's a really big meeting. But there's nothing really, extraordinary other than we got stuff going on, man. We're working around the building. We're interacting, talking to each other in a really serious manner. But there's nothing super unique, or we're doing some kind of weird sale or something like that. Mm-hmm. We're just doing regular masonry, and it's kick ass, man.
No, I love the fact that, because to me the yard work seems like something silly, but those moments of building those bonds of whatever it is you're doing carries to those degrees. Because when you're doing a degree with people you don't know, I don't think you're as likely to create that, real initiatic power as it is with a group of guys that you have honed this thing inside and outside of lodge. So those kind of things are important. It's part of building the bond to really
it is
the cup.
And that's, it's not just in the lodge, it's any human experience. Like when say people get around and make quilts together, or they do any kind of work together, It's a union of human consciousness. You find out that your fellow human being, they're not the enemy. In fact, they are you. You are them. And working in the yard is that that experience that we can share. We have 30 something palm trees around our building, and we trim them and we put them in a pile. And we burn them. We mow the yard. We weed eat. It's really an interesting landscape around there now. And in a few years, it's going to be so weird looking, because it's going to be these two green tunnels to drive into the driveway to the building. And we did it. We've done this together, and doing things together like this is, as you just mentioned, it's a bonding experience.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful to transform. I mean, because every lodge has a different situation. I mean, we're extremely blessed in the building we're in, but the metal building as a lodge is not an uncommon scenario, and it can be turned into something beautiful. You know?
I like that the concept there that masonry does not need to be complicated.
Yeah. Kiss it.
It's not the building. In fact, we proved it. You don't have to have. I love beautiful Masonic buildings, but we don't have one, and so it shows that you don't have to have a building like that. At the end of the day, it's the human interaction that makes all the difference.
Yeah, and you're very modest, because anytime the subject of beautiful lodge rooms come up, if not at the top of the list, San Marcos is on the list. So it may not be beautiful on the outside, but that's not what it's all about. It's the internal.
Well, quite frankly, it's kind of a blessing, because it's a 6,000 square foot building.
Wow.
We got a new roof put on it a few years ago because we had hail damage. We made a claim on our insurance, got a brand new roof. So the building's kind of bulletproof, okay? Whereas, if you have an old early 1900s building, it can kind of be an albatross, because roof and bricks and windows and all those things you got to, that cost a lot of money. Well, we don't fight that stuff anymore. It's really we're pretty much focused just on, we have an apartment which pays, basically keeps us alive. It's a 800 square foot apartment within the building. And so that pays, surpasses our dues, keeps us going. Well, in fact, we climb every year. We gain about $3,000-$4,000 every year, and we don't do any fundraisers because we have this apartment. And
Nice.
So we get to focus. Excuse me. We get to focus on work rather than worrying about the building. So even though I wanted a beautiful old brick building, an old brick building, and didn't get one, it doesn't make a difference. We got this metal building that's just this beast that weathers out all the weather and everything, and inside it's where all the cool stuff goes down.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm still in the making honey. I love that. We're just making honey. That's such a great symbolism.
Well, I think I mentioned before, we actually have a bee skep. I bought it online, and it's actually a real grass, genuine bee skep over sitting in the corner. And it's a reminder that, we are a hive and we're worker bees, and that's our job, is to work together to make this honey, this light that we're trying to, achieve. It's a great analogy, and it's so true.
Yes, it is. What would you say overall is the most important aspect of San Marcos Lodge you'd like others to know about?
There's several things here, but the first thing comes to mind is that if your lodge is having difficulties and you want something, more than what you have, it can happen. Look, we did it at San Marcos. You can do it too. Here's what I tell guys that come in. I was 50 years old when I became a Mason. If I can learn the work, anybody can learn the work. Okay. And it was hard. It took me months, but I did it because I wanted it. Okay. So if you want your lodge to be better, and however you view that, if you want it, you can make it happen, but you just have to, dig in, be persistent and kind and loving, and it will change. It can't resist the human energy that goes out there. And yes, of course, there's going to be pushback. That's the way the world works. So anyway, that's kind of my that's my story. Now I'm sticking with it.
Like it.
So, gentle listeners, our quote of the week, and I don't know that we can call it a fraternal quote, although I'm sure that he belonged to some orders of some kind. All friendly feelings towards others come from the friendly feelings a person has for himself. And that's from the very famous Greek philosopher Aristotle.
This one is one I picked, and it's because the first time I met John, it was like instantaneously, I want this guy to be my friend. You know, you put off such an energy, John, that it was like, yeah, this guy's going to be fun to be around.
Well, thank you. It's very kind for you to say that. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
I love you, brothers.
Ditto. Love you as well, my brother.
All right, so let's do some closing thoughts. We'll do Rhit first, then Billy, then myself, and then John.
This is the whole reason I started the podcast, is to get stories like this out there of a guy walking in and having a vision and setting a goal and making it happen, and highlighting the fact of how long it took and that they're still working at it. You know, it's not an overnight process, because 95% of lodges out there want to improve something and they hit major resistance and give up. But they don't understand that's part of the journey. Hitting that resistance part of the journey, because I know just a very small part about some of the things that they've run into at San Marcos, and they've had their adversity. It's not been just a cupcakes and candy cane kind of journey, but they kept at it, and they have something so nice and such a great story to be proud of, that many years from now, San Marcos Lodge members are going to look back and say, this is when it all kind of turned around. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Go ahead, Billy.
All right. No, I remember. So, John, I remember being in the room when you gave your presentation at the last Masonicon. And it was amazing to listen to your passion and energy about Masonry. And you can hear that again tonight. I think it's fantastic. I love your energy. I love the topics that you bring up too. You're not afraid to get too esoteric, which is fantastic, right? Unfortunately, sometimes there seems to be a drive to push the esotericism out of Masonry, and I love people who try to bring it back in. So I want to thank you for that. I definitely look forward to seeing you again. I believe you're going to be at this upcoming Masonicon as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm going to make sure to be there for your talk in that room, and thank you for stopping by and chatting with us.
And John, I wanted to say thanks for coming on to the podcast. It's always really fun to talk to the guys that are wading in the deep end of the esoteric pool, and not necessarily because esotericism is inherently more valuable than other things in Masonry, but just because it provides such a wide range of opinions and insights and new discoveries, or maybe old discoveries, honestly, into the human mind and where we can go and the little doors that the craft opens up. You know, if Masonry is like a big hallway with lots of doors, and all the doors are very interesting rooms. So I want to hear about the different stuff. Like, let's talk about astral projection. You know, let's get a little bit weird with it. You know, no disrespect to practitioners of AP, but I want to hear the weird stuff. You know, I want to hear the stuff that's out there. And you know, let's talk about the different strange things you're trying. Let's talk about the new things. The old things that are unknown. So thanks for coming on. If you have any closing thoughts you'd like to leave with our guests, go for it.
Sure. This has been really fun for me. You know, when I talk about this stuff. I can talk about it for a very long time. Freemasonry, the people that, let's say back in the 1700s, the people that were creating what we have now, they were free thinkers. Okay, they were talking about stuff like this between themselves and quiet, because it's not for everybody. Look, it just isn't, and it's okay. The guys that are in lodge that think that the stuff that we're talking about is weird or whatever, that's fine. But it's a place where people like us can find each other. I would have never met y'all. I would have never met any of the people that I know now in Freemasonry if it hadn't been for Freemasonry. So it's a portal. It's a filter system for people who can find each other. Let's put it that way. And we do find each other. And at the end of the day, the bottom line is to realize that your fellow human being, they're not the enemy, man. They are you and you are them. It's kind of a weird statement, but it's really a truth that, the other human being, they're from the same source. So anyway, I hope that all of us will keep doing the good work that we're doing. It's never going to end. It's never going to be perfect. And that's okay, because that's the reality we live in. I want to do a little plug for Tom McGuire. He came up with this saying, which I think is so great. One nation under geometry instead of one nation under God. And all Freemasons would understand. And it's true. We're the whole world is, under this thing that we call geometry, which is this, order out of chaos. And we recognize that. I'm getting off on a tangent. It's been fun. I love you, brothers. And let's I'll keep going if you'll keep going. How about that?
Well, we definitely are going to have you on for another show.
Right on. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So, folks, if you want to learn more about Fort Worth Lodge, you can find us at www.fortworth148.org. We are at Fort Worth Lodge 148 on Facebook. Our email is info148@fortworth148.org. You can learn more about Texas Masonicon, our upcoming educational event, at www.texasmasonicon.com. That's Texas Mason Icon. We are at Texas Masonicon on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The event is all day, Saturday, July 27th, and you can order tickets now. Rhit, how much are the tickets now? Because I think
$65.
65? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our early bird special is over because we sold out of the early bird tickets. So the pre-orders are $65. And John, do you have any info or contact info that you would like to plug for either yourself or your lodge?
As far as our lodge, I believe that we have our website is back up. It got hacked a few years ago and destroyed. It was horrible, but I believe we have a website, and that's kind of about it. I don't have I don't do Facebook very much and that sort of thing, but San Marcos has a website.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
All right, gentlemen, it's been a fantastic one. This is Rhit Moore signing off.
This is Billy Hamilton signing off.
This is Gabriel Jagush signing off.
And I guess this is John Tolbert signing off also. See you, brothers.